Man, this picture right here is wild, ain't it? They got the pro-life, pro-woman sticker, the fun Planned Parenthood, pro-life, Black preborn lives matters. I'm a post-Roe generation, no mask, airport. Right here, abortion anytime, any reason, with the mask on and hair on slate, right? On my mama, this how polarizing America is right now. They sitting right next to each other too. From two different sides of the political spectrum, and hell, life itself. Ain't it? They got the pro-life, pro-woman sticker.
Yeah, it is pretty wild, but not for all of the reasons you'll read about on the internet. It's pretty wild that two people can wait on a delayed flight who have opposing views on something and no altercation take place until you get to the internet. So next time, instead of taking my picture and posting it online and trolling me, maybe just come have a conversation with me instead. And yes, I am pro-life, if you couldn't tell by the stickers. I always have been, and I always will be. And I will not stop advocating for the precious lives of the preborn, the voiceless, the defenseless, who deserve to be treated with respect and have a chance to actually live and not be murdered.
They got the pro-life, pro-woman sticker.
Yeah, it is pretty wild, but not for all of the reasons you'll read about on the internet. It's pretty wild that two people can wait on a delayed flight who have opposing views on something and no altercation take place until you get to the internet. So next time, instead of taking my picture and posting it online and trolling me, maybe just come have a conversation with me instead. And yes, I am pro-life, if you couldn't tell by the stickers. I always have been, and I always will be. And I will not stop advocating for the precious lives of the preborn, the voiceless, the defenseless, who deserve to be treated with respect and have a chance to actually live and not be murdered.
Number one, how you so unapologetically pro-life, but you have to specify the type of black life you affirm, aka the preborn black lives. Get on about your business. Number two, I ain't post your picture on the internet. I merely seen your picture already being posted on the internet with sex beat. Number three, ain't nobody gotta troll you. I just merely made an analysis about how this picture y'all two in the airport, standing with no altercations, how you pointed out, was showing the polarization of America. That's what I said. Number four, this idea of trolling. The video wasn't made to you at all. I just pointed out the hypocrisy of you talking about you're pro-life in the airport while having no mask with a whole bunch of pro-life memorabilia stickers. Number five, since you're so pro-life, how's you gonna feel about those black preborn lives after they leave the womb? Number six, I wonder how she feels about Black Lives Matter. Or does her unapologetically pro-life shit don't go that far? Then you said you pro-life, but I don't remember seeing no stickers on your computer about how black women are dying at alarming rates while giving birth and you trying to force them to have babies. Number seven, seeing that I wasn't at the airport and I didn't take this picture, I'm curious, did you have a conversation with this woman or did you just sit there with no mask on looking like Lilo and Stitch?
Now, before we get into tonight's show, yes, Consciously did an impeccable job of defending himself, but I want to point some things out. I want you to listen to and recall the verbiage that this woman used. She said that there was no altercation until it was brought to the internet and insinuated that he was the one that took her picture and put it on the internet. She chose to only duet his video and then pin said video on her TikTok page. How very Carolyn Bryant Dunham of her. She knows what she's doing. Now, fortunately, in 2022, people are a lot more evolved and saw through her bullshit and her white woman tears. There was no altercation on the internet. Through all of the duets and stitches I've seen of that video, of that picture, I should say, no altercation. None whatsoever. There was conversation that was brought up. And most people, just like Consciously, question why it was only Black unborn lives matter. Because if you are unborn, you do not have a life. But these are the dog whistles. These are the microaggressions that we talk about that are dangerous to us. But I just want to put that out there. Um, I also want to take this time to get my excitement on, because y'all, guess who's back tonight? The internet's favorite ginger, Chris. Whoop whoop.
Hey everybody, your ginger's back.
Guess who?
Glad to be here. Glad to participate.
Whoop whoop.
Gonna be fun.
And given our favorite topic to talk about is Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's kick it off with that. From an article coming from USA Today. Fact check. Fabricated July 4th tweet attributed to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene circulates online. The claim, an image shows a July 4th tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. On July 4th, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, representative from Georgia, shared a tweet to her official, sorry, clicked on something I shouldn't have. Shared a tweet to her official account honoring the Americans who signed the Declaration of Independence. But a Facebook post shared July 4th shows a screenshot of a different tweet Greene purportedly shared in recognition of Independence Day. 246 years ago, Jesus Christ performed his miracle of making a single day's worth of bullets last 8 days, allowing the Continental Army, Americans, woot, to defend the socialist Mexicans and the liberal British, who were also Muslim, read the purported tweet. That's why I give thanks this 4th of July. The post generated over 300 interactions and 60 shares in less than a week. Similar posts have amassed hundreds of interactions on Facebook and Instagram, but the image of the purported tweet is altered. USA Today found no evidence the Republican lawmaker shared such a tweet on her official account, and her spokesperson said it's not real. Now,
I believe that she's that dumb and she lacks any form of history because her history comes from QAnon. So yeah.
And my thing is, I saw the Facebook post because people love to send me stuff, and I was like, okay, I can't substantiate it, but can I 100% say it's false? No, I can't. And I brought receipts to say why I can't believe that this is 100% false. Y'all watch this. Y'all gonna get a kick out of this one. And yes, this is 100% real. This was posted on Instagram from her official Instagram account. I'm just going to say, pay attention to what's in the background. You'll understand when I roll this footage.
Found this tweet of Marjorie Taylor Greene reading, and it asks, what is Marge reading? If you zoomed in on this first before the book, we should be friends. Oh my God, I don't know where to put my face that's safe. Why is this not satire? Why is this hanging in her room? Oh boy. It's 2022. This is 2022.
And she didn't even make him flattering. Like most of the Trump propaganda, they like make him muscle bound with rifles and she got him looking like the Penguin's daddy with a MAGA hat on the. Now y'all see why I said I don't know 100% if the purported tweet was fake, because this is what she has hanging in her office.
Mm-hmm. And probably a rack of guns.
Now that's Lauren Boebert that seems to love the guns. Marjorie Taylor Greene likes to harass survivors of school shootings.
Right.
And she's losing her mind now because, she's slated to go in front of the January 6th committee, which we talked about before when she had her little side hearing.
Right.
I told y'all there was a little buzzing on the political social media streets that because she perjured herself, they were going to bring her in front of the committee. So now she's scrambling, trying to blame everything on the left, on Democrats, on
Oh yeah, right.
like she's even now saying that our country is going to shit because there are now fake moms and fake dads raising children. She's speaking about children who've been adopted.
And these
Now,
are people in Washington that are supposed to represent what America looks like.
yeah, and the adoption system is already screwed up in the United States. I get that. But there are some wonderful people who just want to give loving, healthy homes to people.
Right.
So you're going to now tell these children, oh, they're fake. And you are why the country is going to shit. We're going to force you to be born. And even though we're telling people adoption is an option, I'm going to tell you adoption is wrong and you should have stayed in the system.
She's going to be on the side that says that the 10-year-old should carry the baby. She's on that side.
Woo.
Yeah, the Q is real. Mm-hmm. That surprises me.
Since we're going to stay on the side of QAnon, the QAnon leader, the Orange Führer, coming from WEKU, documents detail the secret strategy behind Trump's census citizenship question push. Newly released documents confirm the Trump administration's push for a citizenship question was part of a bid to alter the census numbers used to divide up seats in Congress and the Electoral College. So in layman's terms, he wanted to control the Electoral College by basically, if you all remember last year, all of a sudden, Asian Americans were encouraged to identify as white. When you skew those numbers and you're picking elector, because when elector are chosen, they're chosen according to demographics. If the overwhelming demographic in a place is white, then yeah, you can pick a couple white electors because that's gonna represent the majority and blah blah blah. And that's why, if you notice, when you got your last census, things weren't as cut and dry as they were in the past.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we got issues with still having the Electoral College. It's an archaic system.
My thing is, if every other election in the United States is won or lost off of the popular vote, so should the presidency. Right. Because the Electoral College doesn't go into your mayoral votes, your city council votes, your gubernatorial vote, your Senate votes. Why is it, y'all have to think, why is it only given to the presidency? And it was given to the presidency to make sure everybody looked the same.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was all started.
Because when they give the excuse, well, you know, in the South, they had da-da-da-da-da, and in the North, they had da-da-da-da-da regarding land. No, it was to make sure everybody looked the same. Because if that was the case and you were worried about representation, the Electoral College would be used in every election. And the fact that it is not, and it's only in the presidential election, not in the presidential primaries, there's a problem here. Because if the people are saying who they want, why do the electorates get to come in and go, nope, this is who we, because
so yeah, you were popular, you got all the popular votes, but guess what? The college said otherwise.
And Chris, I know you've seen it, we all watched it with Trump.
Yeah.
Trump did not have the popular vote.
Yeah, he never did, even in 2016.
And it's like, how did he get the Electoral College without? That means there were electorates that were not properly representing their districts.
Mm-hmm. The Electoral College goes all the way back. This is how they made sure they had a certain kind of person in the Oval Office. I mean, this is a system that is not popular by means of the most votes wins, or, the people have spoken. That doesn't always count for the people have spoken when it comes to the Electoral College. It hasn't. It never was set up that way. It was set up at a time when they wanted to make sure they had a certain candidate in the White House.
Yep.
That's why so many want to do away with it. It's archaic. It goes back to a period of time that was not fair.
And for everybody that's like, oh, racism is dead, prove it. Eliminate the Electoral College.
The Electoral College represents that. It's like where I live when it comes to, and I'm using this totally outside of the election, but it also represents some things that are carried over throughout decades. Where I live here in North Carolina, in order to purchase a weapon, you need a purchase permit. It has a background check, but it's called a purchase permit you get from your county office. And it basically says this person is of sound mind to purchase a weapon. This goes back all the way back to the day when they wanted to make sure that they had weapons in the right people's hands. When I talk about color, this is something that the state well aware of, but this is still the South. And there are things in our society that are continually carried over from way back when. And I just use one example. I know a lot of people in this state want to do away with that because all it does is consists of a background check, but you still got to go to the office and get this certificate that basically has that language on it with your name.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that goes back to a period of time when they wanted to control who would have weapons. And no, it was not on whether you were mentally sane. It was whether you had a certain color complexion. So yes, a lot of things have been carried over, and Electoral College, it does not represent the popular vote.
And speaking of North Carolina, we got two videos regarding good old North Kakalaka. Let's go ahead and dive into these. We're gonna play them back to back.
What am I looking at right here? North Carolina Bill 158 would make it legal to murder a pregnant woman who intends to get an abortion if you are defending the life of the baby. Let those sirens alert you to the fact that this is real. North Carolina, you need to get out and you need to be voting in a very real way, because if the Republicans win the supermajority, this is the type of shit that is happening, that's going to be happening in your state, and the blood will be on your hands.
If I could insist, this might sound a little strange, but if I could insist, as long as they are legal in our nation, abortions would be done in the public square.
We are not a completely civilized people. And don't ever let the technology fool you.
Yeah.
Breaking news, North Carolina Republicans have just introduced a bill mandating the death penalty for any camping after conception. First sponsored in 2021 and now revived, it says any person who willfully seeks to destroy the life of another by any means at any stage of life or succeeds in doing so shall be held accountable for attempted murder or for first-degree murder, respectively. And in a further irony, the bill still protects capital punishment by the state. So pro-life of them. If you feel angry like I do, I need your help in channeling that anger to call your elected representative and make sure they know we need to expand the court. It will literally take you 10 seconds to do so, but it makes a big difference. The link is in my bio. Click, it calls automatically. You guys, we've got to make our voices heard. Don't sit silent. Let's call, let's share this, let's get to work.
And like I said on TikTok, expanding the court is all good and fine, but you have justices that should be impeached and removed because one, they perjured themselves during their confirmation hearings, and you have a justice who not only lied through his confirmation hearing, he also has conflict of interest, which are two things that are impeachable and removable in SCOTUS. And my thing is, they're passing legislation that would kill the mother, the host of a fetus. A fetus nor an embryo can live outside the mother. So this isn't about pro-life. Go ahead, Chris.
It's about pro-selection, because obviously it's going to cater those. Everything has to do with money. People with power or in certain positions, they will find a way to do what they want to do. Abortions, whatever. They're going to have the means to do this. But getting back to North Carolina, our current governor here, who is a Democrat, is greatly outnumbered. And a lot of people fear that his days are numbered because there's just too many rural areas in North Carolina outside the city. Now, in the cities, everybody's confident. You usually have, Democratic mayors and things like that. But once you get outside those cities, and there's a lot of small towns in North Carolina, you drastically take a right-hand turn to that side of the aisle. And that's what we worry about here in North Carolina, that it won't be long before they'll turn North Carolina into another Southern right wing. It'll put up a fight. So I'm hopeful, but it's, I know there's a lot of people down here screaming because they look around and all the neighboring states are already done it. And you know what I'm talking about in old KY. So yeah, it's we need a governor that wants to actually see people for people. Nobody said he's the best governor ever, but you know what? Right now, we need more people that are on the side of reality and for looking out for people's health and well-being, and not looking for ways to kill people because of a choice they make. So, yeah, we're on the side of reason. We're on the side of reality, and it's not, like I said, a lot comes down to those that have the means to do what they want to do, but they still want to control everyone else.
Yeah, because like here in the good old Commonwealth of Kentucky, I'm still waiting for my letter and document to come in the mail, because evidently once a month we're supposed to prove if we got our cycle or not. If we did not, we have to go to a doctor and have it like confirmed. And if it is confirmed that you are pregnant, and if you miss one of those documents to send back, you can get an ankle monitor as if you broke the law.
So the Commonwealth of Gilead is there. Yes. And they're adding on. That's like I said, for those that think Handmaid's Tale is such a far out fictional tale, look around you.
Well, first of all, we black women been telling folks about this for decades. And Handmaid's Tale, a lot of y'all don't realize that the author of the Handmaid's Tale, because most of y'all just know about Handmaid's Tale from the TV series.
From Hulu. Yeah.
What the author did was take the real life struggles of black women, change the race, and give it to you. Mm-hmm. This is what they've been doing to us for generations. And we keep telling y'all, we had kept telling folks, this is going to come to your front door. And folks are like, no, I'm gonna look over here. No, this isn't going to. No, Jethro loves me. Jethro would never do that to me. Jethro is gonna look out for Jethro. The top 1% white, cisgendered, pseudo heterosexual, because every day we find out they ain't as heterosexual as you thought, faux Christian men in this country that are in control of this country, they only look out for themselves. They don't care about their fellow white people. They don't care about women. They care about lining their pockets.
Right.
But here's one story that we have covered for a while. Coming from Larry Brown Sports.
Star Wars? Oh.
No, not from sports. Expected length of Deshaun Watson suspension revealed. What the? I couldn't get a story together for Star Wars in that amount of time.
I got Vader on my mind. Go ahead.
A decision on potential disciplinary action for Deshaun Watson is expected in the near future. No, it's not. Y'all traded y'all other superstar quarterback, but we gonna pretend with y'all. And there has been talk that the Cleveland Browns star face a suspension of up to a year or longer. No, he's not, because y'all already, once again, let your other superstar quarterback be traded. We know y'all not going to suspend him. A new report says that the punishment is unlikely to be that severe. We know this.
No, yeah, right.
The NFL conducted an investigation into the sexual assault allegations against Watson and has presented findings to former U.S. District Judge Sue L. Robinson, who was jointly appointed by the NFL and NFL Players Association as a disciplinary officer under the latest collective of bargaining agreement. The NFL is said to be seeking a suspension of at least a full season. No, they ain't, because they ain't never trying to suspend nobody that long, because they about the money. However, sources told Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk that the final punishment will likely be a ban of somewhere between 2 and 8 games. See, that's what I believe, because it was last week. Let me fill you in, Chris. We discussed there are several teams. Well, the 2 teams that has settled with his alleged victims. We do have to say alleged.
Yes.
To clear their names.
Yeah,
they've
Houston doing what they did not clear the table. I mean, Houston.
And then after the Cleveland trade, and we know Cleveland doesn't have the biggest budget right now. After the Cleveland trade, and they're still going to pay part of the salary. No, you're not getting rid of, because Cleveland is biting at the chomp to get another trophy, another plaque in they dirty river on fire ass city that don't nobody really like in Ohio.
Well, they just saw what happened, what Cincy did with their season. So there.
Right. So they're not going to let go of
haters.
My thing is, when I saw that QB trade, and it wasn't even a trade. When they let him go, I was like, yeah,
they paid a huge amount for him to leave. And where did he come? Right here in Charlotte.
Right. And I'm like, Deshaun Watson is not about to get any punishment. And there were a couple folks, not during the live broadcast last week, but afterwards, that were telling me, I guess because I got a vagina, you don't know what you're talking about. They gonna punish. No, they're not, because that's bad business. You're not going to trade away a surefire, we can get this done. If you believe that somebody you spent that much money on is supposed to make the Browns rise again.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I look at it from an angle where I expect it to be, for me, at least, and I don't think it'll be as severe like they were saying for a while where it would be a full season. I think it'll be at least 6 games, at least.
Yeah, they're saying now insider was saying it's going to be 2 to 8 games, which I believe. The whole season, no, that trade wouldn't have happened if it was going to be a whole season.
So what would you think if let's say that was Joe Burrow in that situation? How many?
First of all, they think Joe Burrow is a light-skinned black man. So
he's Joe Cool. He's Joe Cool.
Joe Burr is pro-choice. So they would have strung him up already. Joe likes
Yeah.
Kaepernick and stands no. Now Deshaun with his coon-tastic committee ass, they gonna let him slide. They gonna treat him like Ben Roethlisberger 2.0. He gonna get a 2-game suspension. He gonna run out on that field, and everybody gonna act like none of this happened. Watch my words.
He wasn't. He didn't already have a Super Bowl on his belt, like Ben the backdoor man. So I don't think they'll go too lenient because this has been such a topic for quite a while. But I also don't think that they're going to totally throw the book at him. I think Goodell will have his hands kind of tied. But
I'm telling you, I think it's just going to be a 2-game.
I don't think anyone owes Cleveland anything because they made some real bad decisions forever.
First of all, let's not forget. Let's not forget when the original Browns were stripped from Cleveland and moved to Baltimore. Y'all forgot about that.
No, I didn't.
The fans broke every NFL rule by stealing components of the stadium, vandalizing everything. Commissioner was like, we're gonna come down on them with the full strength of the law. They did no such thing.
Yeah.
Nobody care about what goes on in Cleveland. And the thing about it is they need a new superstar. And they are counting on Deshaun Watson to be that superstar because you got to think, there's a scandal going on now with them downplaying and not properly hiring qualified black coaches in the NFL. So this is going to be their bone that they throw to everybody like, well, we protected this black man. They're going to treat him like Ben Roethlisberger 2.0 and hype him up. He's going to get a 2 to 3 game suspension. He's going to run out on that field. Everybody's gonna make him have the greatest game he ever had. They gonna tout him up, and all of us are supposed to pretend like none of this ever happened.
They're like, oh, he's been through so much. He's already been through so much.
Yeah, we're just like to this day, we're supposed to pretend that Big Ben was not going from city to city trolling college campuses, trapping young ladies in bathrooms to sexually harass and assault them. We're supposed to pretend like that ain't happened.
Now, remember, last season, Deshaun sat out on his own because of his own disagreement with the franchise, with Houston. So whatever he misses is his own doing. Now, like I said, they were talking about another season, which I really don't see a totality of 2 seasons because he chose to sit out last season. And then, well, actually, they kept him active, but he sat out. And then to miss almost all of this coming season, I don't see it happening. Money speaks louder than anything in the NFL because we know that's the one league where the owners are a certain type of human being compared to some of the other leagues. So money is everything for the NFL. Goodell is just their hired spokesman.
He's their puppet.
He can be replaced. So
yeah, he is their puppet, and he does not want to be replaced. He likes the position that he sits in, and that's very, very obvious.
So he's always careful with, he'll speak for something, but you don't turn around and say, hey, I hope Goodell does something because he's a commissioner. That's not how the NFL works. He's a spokesman. He can say his opinion as long as, he don't step on too many toes. But that's about it.
Yeah, look at Goodell, though, differently than you look at the police commissioner of a large city.
Yeah.
Commissioners are beholden to mayors, governors. Goodell is beholden to football teams that don't have multiple owners.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. They're very much in a position where that is the one league where it is so obvious that the owners look at their teams as just hired bodies. They want the good ones, but you know, just don't speak out too loud because the owner is the king of the world in that city. It's run so different, and it's always been that way.
Yeah, and Mr.
Compared to, you know, the NBA, they try to stay more current. They try to keep things moving a little bit more fluid.
And
no
here's
league is perfect.
I do not know why the Browns kept the name. Because the Brown family left the Cleveland Browns where they
They're a
stood,
dog pound.
came down. But hold on, the Browns are named after the Brown family. Why they decided to have a dog as their mascot, I don't know. Because we say if it's brown, flush it down. Because when you think of Brown, you think of doo-doo Brown.
And that's
But
how it
the
is in Cincinnati.
Browns left Cleveland where they stood, hit 75, came down to Cincinnati. And here is the irony of the whole thing.
The stadium.
The Cincinnati Bengals are now trying to sell away the naming rights to Paul Brown Stadium. So it ain't even going to be named after the Browns. Like, nobody cares about the Brown name.
We're going to call it Welcome to the Jungle. Welcome to the Jungle.
Cleveland, get rid of the name. First of all, get rid of that dark cloud over you. We still have to deal with the Brown family. Those of us that are Cincinnati Bengals fans, we still have to deal with the Brown family and their inability. They suck at business, and they suck at sports business and entertainment.
Call it Mercy
They don't know how to
Field.
negotiate. They don't know what to get to make their teams better. Be happy they disassociated themselves with you. Baltimore, also be happy that the Browns family did not stick around for y'all. Also, you have been blessed. But Cleveland, finally, let go of what is holding you back. What's holding you back is that demonic ass name. Let it go.
Remember before Cleveland moved to Baltimore, the reason they were able to move to Baltimore is because Baltimore didn't have a team. Because if people remember back in the days when the Colts bailed out during the middle of the night and took off and ended up in Indianapolis.
And it's funny because you know how they say in relationships, you gonna lose them how you got them. Well, Baltimore got them how they lost them.
Yeah. So, you know, it's all about renaming the stadium. Mercy Field.
Yeah, because you know, you and I are old enough to still remember the Houston Oilers.
Absolutely. They even had a song.
Yeah, so did the Chicago Bears. Actually, so did the Bengals.
No, the Shuffle.
And actually,
the Shuffle?
The most recent Cincinnati Bengals.
And the Bengals song.
Yeah, a family friend of ours wrote that song.
Oh.
Who they?
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
Wanna beat them Bengals? What are they? In the jungle, afraid of no. Okay, let me stop.
That's what it is. I don't even know the song. I didn't know they had a song. Actually,
well, your team doesn't have a name, so I'm gonna need you to stop with the shades, sir.
I didn't know they had one. I just was throwing
your
that
team
out there.
Is named after the sport they play.
I don't know if every franchise has a song. That's why.
No, every franchise is not that special.
Not everybody can be Cincy.
But sticking with the football theme, Mr. I don't like my wife that much, so I pretended to retire. Now I'm back after 2 weeks of being in the house with her, and I realized I just married her because I thought she was pretty. Then she took her makeup off, and I realized I don't like that bitch. Tom Brady says
the Brazilian chick.
Yeah, coming from CNN, Tom Brady says his relationship with Donald Trump was mischaracterized by the media. No, it wasn't. But
right.
Wait.
Thomas
Hold on,
Edward
let me
Brady.
stop laughing.
Thomas Edward Brady, you're lying. You're lying like they're doing in the.
Oh, he lying. Hold on, you gonna get a kick out of this.
We know they were golf buddies.
And what's funny, the cover photo for this article is them playing.
They were golf buddies. We know that. Everybody knows that. He only did that when he realized the sport he's playing in had a majority that didn't think that way about him. So of course, he had to save face because he's got to share a locker room with a bunch of guys that do not like Mr. South Florida.
But here we go. Tom Brady says his relationship with former President Donald Trump has been taken out of context by the media. This was 17 or 18 years ago, Brady told Variety in a wide ranging interview about having previously golfed with Trump. Did he forget that he had a Make America Great Again hat on in the picture that captured him in? But I digress. I was so young. I got to go to a private golf course. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Brady, you were off
You weren't
season.
that young.
But my thing is, he had a Make America Great hat on, and he had a definite beer belly dad bod going. But I digress. Brady said
He had
he's
already
not
been in the
spoken.
league for many years.
Well, hold on. Brady said he had not spoken to Trump in a lot of years. Did Brady forget that we saw his locker room post game interview where he endorsed Trump? But let's keep going. I think the press just mischaracterized a lot. Oh, did you finally remember that your wife is an immigrant? Brady continued, my personality isn't ever one to insult anybody. I have plenty of my own flaws. I'm not here to point out anyone's flaws. Oh, here's the backpedaler. There are things I agree with. There are things that I don't. There are things I agree with my wife about. And not one of them ain't staying home with her, but okay.
His personal trainer is Latino, I believe.
There are things that I don't. I love her to death. Why is he bringing his wife up right now? But we don't always eye to eye. So that means his wife don't like Trump. And that's why he didn't want to stay home. She was about to whoop that ass. I don't see eye to eye with anyone. How
It's
you don't see eye? Why did you marry this woman if you don't
that-
see eye to eye with her? And I'm
he
not
keeps
responsible
she
for
keeps
what
showing
other
him the
people say.
prenup.
Yeah. He said I'm not responsible for what other people say. I'm really responsible for what I say, but you're not taking responsibility for what you said in that post-game locker room interview where you put on that Make America Great hat, Tom Brady. So if people want to say things I said or that I'm about, that's up to them, and I'm not going to respond to any of those things all the time either. The NFL star quarterback reiterated in the interview that he does not know when he will officially retire from the game. Oh, never, because you don't like your wife. And evidently she waiting to give you that sofritos because you are voting for someone who does not even want her or your children in the country. Sad, sad man. I would
They
say,
can work in one of the Trump locations.
yeah, he said, I would say it's year to year. Could this be my last year? Absolutely. Could I change my mind? Absolutely. I've realized I don't have 5 years left. I don't, I want to do it my way. I want to give it everything I got to see where no,
He's
I'm
going to
sorry.
leave Tampa and go to Cleveland.
But here's the thing as a former athlete, as a former coach, as a friend, as a relative to athletes, no one wants to leave their respective sports, especially when they're at the height of their sports.
That's right.
On a low, because look at what Michael Jordan did.
Mm-hmm. Look at Hoosh.
And it's like you don't want to hush. You don't want to run yourself so ragged that you go from being touted as the greatest to then being touted as a joke. Brady, the fact that you brought your wife up when asked about Trump, that's why you can't retire. You can't go into that house with that woman. Nope. She's pissed. Your in-laws are pissed. Your children are hurt. That was not years ago when you were young. We all saw you as a middle-aged man in a locker room, put on a red Make America Great Again hat. We saw you with said hat on, with a beer-bellied dad bod on the golf course. You were not a young man. Trump was president, and that's why he was running that shit all over everything. It was in real time. Yep. Do not try to gaslight us. Your wife, Zale, is ready to whoop your ass. You married a Latina woman, and you really thought you was going to get away with this shit? You know you can't go to sleep in your house right now. That motherfucker is going to stab you the moment you take a nap.
And he's playing the sport that MAGA man himself verbally came out, gaslit all his supporters and all his supporters who watch football to boycott it because of those kneeling. So for him to play the same sport that he gaslit everybody to protest because of all those kneeling, when he came out and said, I would fire them, I would get rid of these people, they would not be on my team. And Brady had to look at the fact that he had to go in the locker room with guys who were looking at him like, do you agree with that? Do you agree with the red hat man? And he's like, hold on, I didn't know him that well. I didn't know him that well.
Here's the thing. Brady doesn't care about going in the locker room with him. His care and concern is being on the field. Mm-hmm. Look at his center. Look at his offensive line. If they decide, oh, you don't like me, you want to vote against me, you want to align yourself with someone who doesn't respect me, imagine if they just decided during the game to keep taking a knee.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if guys say, you know what, coach, I don't want to go on the field with him. Can we put in the backup quarterback?
But here's the thing. They won't even, I know football players. They are way too petty for that. They're not going to go to the coach and say, hey, I don't want to be on the field. No. They'll just be like, oops, I missed a step. Oops, oh, I'm sorry. I was just a little delayed. Oh, my stomach was upset. That's why I missed that tackle. And they will let him get sacked every play of every quarter of every game.
And he will look as beaten, battered, and as sacked as often as Ice Cool Joe looked for a while, which God bless, we get some normal linemen coming in. Yes.
Well, yeah. Now, we do have a correction coming because there was a story that came out. As much as I love Rachel Maddow, she does often, well, I shouldn't say often, she does sometimes get some things wrong. So let's get this story underway.
All right. So last night, Rachel Maddow dropped a bombshell in which she went over a leaked Merrick Garland memo that he sent out to the Department of Justice in May that stated no indictments before the midterms are to be allowed due to the DOJ policy. And this tweeter was like, I'm seething. And I read that and I was like, holy shit, I too am also seething. But here's the thing. That's not what that memo said. It was a huge nothing burger. The memo said that if you are going to open up a prosecution or any sort of investigation into someone who's running for office, AG Garland wants to sign off on it. It's a policy that's been in place for years. There's nothing special. He just wanted to reiterate. So lesson learned here. We on the left are just as guilty as rage farming as the right.
So for everyone that kept messaging me and emailing me and texting me asking why I had not covered it yet, I wanted a little bit more information because when that originally dropped months ago, it didn't make news. I read it and I was like, okay, maybe I read it incorrectly. I'm not a jurist. I am not an attorney. I'm definitively not a judge. Maybe the legal jargon was above my head. Maybe I misread this. So I sat back and waited. And this is why I tell y'all, I don't put everything on TikTok. I don't put everything on Facebook. I don't put everything on Instagram, Twitter, et cetera, because some things take nuance and some things take a little bit more conversation. That's why a lot of times I address it here on my podcast. But also when I'm slow to talk about something, there's a reason. There is a reason. And I saw so many videos where people were calling for Merrick Garland to be sat down. Joe Biden made a mistake with him. You can make a mistake reading these very, very legal documents that are not written in marketplace English that we were all taught in high school. It is not like writing an essay. They do not follow the same rules. It is not that. And for me, and Chris will tell you, it doesn't matter what I read. I'm researching pretty much everything that I come across. I have full notebooks full of things that I've read where I've done side things on. So if you don't understand, don't be quick to rush out and say that somebody is wrong or put somebody in a box because you didn't understand. It's okay to close your mouth and be like, you know what? I didn't understand this. Maybe if I sit back, the proper information will come to me, because trust me, it will come to you. It is okay.
Right.
And all
Correct.
he's saying is, hey, I want to sign off on this. I want to, like, basically, I want to make sure it's signed, sealed, delivered. They know this is tried and true because we've
Yeah.
watched, even with the January 6th hearings and the subpoenas for that, how people are not taking it seriously. He wants to give some seriousness to these investigations, to these warrants, to these subpoenas, because
So
there are
what?
people who have actively broken the law that are so egotistical and believe that they are so above the law, they're running for office again.
Well, there's the tensions are high because we know how much, not just this midterm means, but how it's going to basically roll into 24, because there's a lot riding out there. I mean, there's obviously we're still dealing with the whole divide now. Yes, both sides have their own little internal conflicts. Um, but when you have Trumpsters out there running against, people that try to say they're non-Trumpsters, which, that in itself is a big question mark. Then you're going to turn around and say, okay, well, yeah, everybody's looking at who they're appointing for their nominee. Yeah, but they still got to run against a Democrat. So everyone's looking at what are the Democrats going to do? Because once again, who's running? On what part of the left is running? Because this is going to be, and they always talk about how the midterms usually favor the party that is not the president at the time. But this one may be a lot different. It just depends on how much work gets done, because there's going to have to be some people rolling up their sleeves and getting in there and getting some work done in order to ensure that we're not having literally the numbers twisted to the point where the House is just a debacle.
Yeah, and the thing about it is they're pulling the distraction and disinformation train.
Mm-hmm.
And people are so focused on who's running for the GOP. Focus on who's running for the Democratic Party, because you have
Right.
people now that are pretending to be Republican,
Yes.
pretending to be Democrat in
Faux
order
libs.
to
They call
infiltrate.
it faux libs.
Yeah, and they're trying to infiltrate from the inside out. Like, there was a woman today that was exposed, and she got an endorsement from Trump, and she's
Right.
fervently anti-Trump. She got called out on Fox News.
Yeah.
But also, people are so focused on who's running for the GOP, you're not paying attention to who's running for the Democratic parties. And
who's funding?
We don't need another mansion anywhere.
Or cinema.
Right. Because on paper, they claim to be Democrat, but everything about them is conservative Republican. And what they're doing is, from the inside out, they're trying to give the impression that what the GOP says about Democrats is true.
Right.
So when they vote against something, conservatives and these MAGA hats can say, see, it's the Democrats. It's two of them. Compared to 178 of y'all that keep consistently voting against things. And also keep in mind, they're doing this so that the GOP can happenstance upon having a super majority in Congress. And
Right.
once they have a super majority in Congress, you already know they're going to roll the clock back to 1942. So all of you white women who think things are not going to affect you, ask your mothers and grandmothers what life was like in 1942 for them.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the rest of us. Ask them what life was like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and early 70s for white women. Take the rest of us off the table. Just ask them about that. And if they're honest with you, what they're going to tell you is going to make your head spin, and you will regret every vote you ever made. Because white women, stop believing that because you give birth to white men, you marry white men, and you came from white men, and you're related to these white men, that you are inherently protected. No, they use your white women tears and your lust for power and wanting to have dominion over others
Mm-hmm.
to perpetuate the racial tropes that get them to rile up the minority who, just like now, has become the ruling minority. And this is how they get the votes, because they use the minority to dissuade the majority. Because when people look at Roe v. Wade being overturned, and they're like, wait a minute, almost 90% of the country is against that. How did this happen? Oh, my vote doesn't count. My And they forget this was from the Supreme Court. This was not from legislation that you could vote from. But the average American is not properly educated. And they do this to intentionally get you to not vote or vote for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember, at the end of the day, you got men making decisions for women. At the end of the day, you got CEOs that want to be men. You got companies, that want to keep men in certain positions. Rolling back the clock means, yeah, that stuff that happened before the struggle and the fights and the marches and everything, yeah, you're going to return decision making into the old days, and a lot of them would love that. Just like with a lot of other things. When you're rolling back the clock, just like they said after Roe, we're going to look at everything.
Mm-hmm. Because
so the
white
fact
women
that
were the only women not allowed
you
into
give
the
somebody the
workforce
60
until the
vote
war.
threshold, you don't do something about the filibuster, guess what's coming down the pipe? They're going to be checking off their boxes. Let's do this. We got 60 votes. We don't even need to worry about the left. We got enough votes. We're putting this thing through. And trust me, they will, because we just sat for 4 years watching what they'll do. When they had the majority. Look at what they did in the Supreme Court, if that's enough in its own.
Yeah,
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, God rest her soul, her body was still lukewarm, and they were getting old Coney Barrett up there.
Yeah, but that's also Ruth's. That's partially Ruth's fault, because Ruth was asked to step down when she could have been replaced under a Democratic president, and she didn't. But also, white women, I want you to remember something. You talk about when women were allowed to enter the workforce. No, that's when white women were allowed to enter the workforce, because legislation was passed where BIPOC women were forced out of their homes and forced into the workforce. There was a period of time where you had to register to vote under Mrs. John Smith or whatever your husband's name was. You couldn't even register under your own name. You couldn't get a credit card in your name. You couldn't get a mortgage in your name. Where other women could, because other women were in the workforce. Other women were establishing credit. Other women were in control of their households. Where if your husband left you or your husband died, you didn't know about his insurance policies. You didn't even know the companies that he had accounts in. This is why so many of y'all lost generational homes. So while you sitting here still trying to get the work off our backs and going, we're all in this together. We ain't never been in this together. The circumstances are going to be different. Even if they roll the hands of time back, we're not going to be in your position. But final thoughts on the night, Chris?
Which is kind of ironic, because Colt 45, who's down in Mar-a-Lago, ironically, for those that know history, Mar-a-Lago was owned by the Post family. Marjorie Post, who was one of the first, probably the biggest female billionaire back in the day, because she took over when her father basically killed himself. She was Mar-a-Lago. She did do amazing things in the food industry and buy out a lot of companies and merge them. So it's kind of odd that we see what's happened to Mar-a-Lago, knowing the history of Mar-a-Lago with Marjorie Post. She's somebody that is in the history of women that became something in a time of men. So, last words for tonight. I'm real excited for the season finale of What's My Streaming Service, called the January 6th Committee, tomorrow, and looking forward to seeing the recap on MSNBC tomorrow night. They're going to wrap it up, and basically then we're going to see how much that the DOJ is going to use this nicely tied together bow tie that the committee is putting on this, which they've done, I think, an excellent job. I know I waited a long time for them to get in front of cameras, but they're doing it the right way. For those that are claiming something is a circus or political, they're the ones that are feeling the brunt of it. So of course they're going to say that because they were active participants or condoners. But I'm excited to see how they're going to wrap this thing up tomorrow. I know they've already kind of leaked, I think, the two ladies, or no, there was a lady and a guy that are going to participate, that they're going to hear from. And I believe they were inside the White House. I'm trying to remember what their titles were, but I believe they were inside the White House. They were both appointed. So yeah, if you're not too busy, tune in. If not, catch the recap later on. That's it for me tonight.
My final words, I just want to piggyback on what you said about Mrs. Post. And I think it's very apropos for Trump. Because as misogynistic and sexist as Trump is, he wouldn't have the position that he has if it wasn't for women. Because let us not forget, if it wasn't for his grandmother, we wouldn't know about the Trump family. His grandfather, as much as Trump poked fun at Hillary Clinton for having pneumonia, she didn't die. His granddaddy did.
Yeah.
His granddaddy was buying up property, but doing nothing with it, like just buying it up and having his family starve. He opened up a brothel here or there, but it really wasn't turning a profit. It was his grandmother, after his grandfather died, and she could take control over everything, that was like, you know what? I can put a dwelling here and rent it out. And that's how they got into it. If you remember when he was married to Ivana Trump, that's the only time he, as a Trump, turned a profit under the Trump organization, because it used to be Mary Trump and Sons. And he just rebranded it to the Trump organization because he wanted to erase his grandmother and his mother from the legacy of the company, because they were the true profit wielders.
Right.
And when he was married to Ivana, who was an incredible businesswoman, by the way, that was the last time he turned a profit. So moving into Mar-a-Lago, he needed to move into Mar-a-Lago so that the name and the history with people in that area would bring him profits. And it still didn't start turning a profit until he became 45. And even then, he's diminished his profit margin because he keeps crashing people's private events, more often than not their weddings, to fulfill his own ego. But it's very apropos that he would choose a property that was established by a woman, because it's the only way he can get ahead. Look how much he rode even on his daughter's name as a president.
It was unheard of back then for Marjorie Post to sit in boardrooms. And I remember watching documentaries and all that, how at a pretty young age, she had to sit in these boardrooms with guys. And you got to think about the age that this occurred, the time frame it was, telling people decisions she wanted to make, because she made a lot of gut instincts, a lot of just decisions based on gamble, basically, because one of her biggest investments early on when she took over for her dad when he died, was expanding the company. Obviously, everybody knows Post Cereal and that. Well, she wasn't content with staying put. At a time when you didn't even have refrigerators, let alone ice boxes that every household had, which little to nobody had, we wouldn't have a frozen food section, let alone frozen vegetables, if she hadn't invested in a guy with the last name Birdseye. At a time when nobody had freezers, at a time when, I mean, this is the type of lady she was at a time when, guess what? It was male oriented. It was very male dominant.
And she saw, like, okay, well, because at this time, mom or grandma was in charge of cooking all the meals. What happens if mom or grandma gets sick?
Right.
And that original marketing campaign, this is what got people to buy things that they didn't even have.
Right.
The equipment to store it in, and they were like, "Oh crap, you're right. What happens if she gets sick? Oh, mom was pregnant right now. When her water breaks, and while she's going to have this baby, how are we going to eat?"
Right.
It was brilliant.
I mean, she was so far ahead. And yes, I give it to her dad at the time because he did show her some of the ropes. He didn't just keep her on the wings. He did bring her in, even if it wasn't in front of the other board members. He did introduce her to the business end of things, which was pretty brave, because even though you love your kids, you're in a time frame where I don't think people would be fair to my daughter or whatever. So the fact that he did, and of course, you know, it's not like he had several kids. His daughter was it. Like, she was it. So the fact that she was able to take over and not turn around and say, "Hey, I need somebody else to take control of this
Well,
company."
he's extremely brave, because let's not forget the criticism my grandfather got in the 80s for just letting me study with him while he was studying for his master's. Like, it wasn't like I was enrolled in the classes.
Right.
I was curious, and he was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to explain this to you." And when I was like, "Oh, so that's what this means?" And he was like, "Oh shit, you understand what I'm saying." And when he would tell people, she knows what she's talking about.
She's a young nerd.
Screw her age, screw her gender. She knows what she's talking about. But just to reiterate, you guys, there will not be a Friday show. I'm going to try to go live a couple times on TikTok this Friday, either TikTok or Instagram. I might switch between the two for the music festival. I do have permission for certain points in the music festival. I cannot tell you at this point. I was told that once I am there, I will get a signal and I can go live for a certain period of time, but I will not be live on the podcast. There will not be a podcast on Friday. So tomorrow will be a combination of my normal Thursday content and a little bit of Friday's content, which is a little bit more lighthearted. But y'all, we got our ginger back.
Y'all knew I wasn't going to be gone forever.
Well, I told them that, but a couple people got a little scared.
I just had to take a little time out. That's it. We all do.
I told him you needed a nap.
Yeah, hey, I'm the nap king, yes.
But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow, y'all.
Be safe, everyone.
Bye.